Sustainably and profitably is actually the biggest win here. We're Rohlik in Czechia, we're Kifli in Hungary, we're Gurko in Austria, we're Knuspar in Germany, and then we're Sesamo in Romania.
You guys are a very important benchmark for Europe, how the automation can be driven.
Those places where people queue out the door to get that cake or get their nice chicken breast or get their really fresh fruit and veg, we get those suppliers on our site and we make sure it's localized.
How do you see looking forward it affects your future scalability? Does it have any limits?
It's that level of micro detail to maximize the extra order, and then ultimately you do that for every van, and then you drop one route. You drop one route, you drop a car, you drop the individual, you save money, you take that, multiplied by the shifts, multiplied by the orders, that's profitability.
Hello everyone, it's Bulanga Talks back here with you, and today I am super excited to have our new guest, Vineta, the CFO of Rohlik Group. Thank you very much for joining. It was a very long time since we were trying to connect with you and find the right time to have a conversation. I'm super excited to have you in our podcast. Thank you very much for joining, and could you please share a little bit about yourself? I'm pretty sure that many of our listeners already know about you and your posts on LinkedIn and over the UK media, not only UK media, but please, if you could share a bit about yourself and your journey, that would be very exciting.
Thanks, and thanks for having me, and it's true, we have been trying to do this for, I think, over a year now, right, so I'm really glad we could get it together. So I'm Vineta, as you said, you know who I am. My background is, I'm currently Group CFO of Rohlik Group. And as a finance person, it seems quite odd to have a finance person on this podcast. But my background is online grocery. So prior to my time at Rohlik Group, where I've been 2 years, I spent 10 years at Ocado Group, I suppose the business that defined the industry that we're really talking about. I basically worked in finance and worked my way up, being part of some interesting changes in the industry and learning and observing what this industry does. And I love it. I mean, online grocery, food, e-commerce, online grocery is absolutely where I'm at. But in my background, I've spent time raising money, internationalizing businesses, advising businesses, and then I also work with the University of Cambridge, mentoring entrepreneurs in the fintech and food and just e-commerce space. So I live and breathe not only the e-commerce or food platform or industry, like every other peripheral vertical. Like I love it. It's just the future.
Love it. And I'm super excited for it. It's the first time here I'm talking to the finance person. But from my point of view, you're not like a regular finance person. You're quite a rock star finance person, so I'm pretty excited.
Does that exist? Do rock star finance people exist?
I'm looking at one, so okay, I'm pretty sure it will be visible. Visible today throughout this conversation. Thank you so much. Rohlik is, from my subjective opinion, a leader in Europe, at least. In the online retail, online grocery. And you're live in Czech, Hungary, Austria, Germany, and this year, Rohlik turned 10. Congratulations. I believe that you guys are doing very revolutionary things in terms of retail, but it wasn't right away what Rohlik is today, right? So if you could please share a bit about the journey of the company, where it started, where it is now, where it's going.
US country, Romania.
Right.
5 countries. That's right.
My bad.
That's fine. I'm good with numbers.
Okay.
Sometimes. And you're right. I think every online business has to go through a journey of where they start and the vision to where they go. And it's just learning through I suppose, the ecosystem, especially this particular industry, having gone through a pandemic as well, has been hugely impacted in positive and negative ways. So the journey of Rohlik is we were founded in 2014 by a serial entrepreneur, and we focused and grew in Czechia. So we grew in Czechia, and then in 2019, late 2019, we decided to expand. So we went into Hungary. And from there, our international expansion grew. We went to Hungary first to prove that we could do it in another country.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to clarify, before we went into Hungary, we actually were profitable in the Czech Republic, which is crazy, right? And just a step back, our offering is a same-day, full basket grocer, right? So, if you really think about the entire industry globally, can you really pinpoint a company that is profitable, tax profitable, or tax paying profitable, in this industry globally? And the answer is probably not, or maybe. Next day grocery doesn't count.
Not that I know.
Next day doesn't count in this. Same day is actually the key point here, right? Because it makes things infinitely more challenging, but also super interesting. So then once we became profitable, we then went and expanded to Hungary, and then shortly after we expanded into Austria, Germany, and then Romania. And the logic was, if we can prove it in one Central European market, being Czechia, let's do it in another, which is Hungary. And when you can kind of prove you're doing it, then the conversation is, well, let me try a Western market, or a more Western market like Austria and Germany. And that is infinitely harder to crack, because anybody can do same-day online grocery in those markets, but sustainably and profitably is actually the biggest win here. Anybody can run a business and burn a load of money, right? We have many examples in our industry that do that and have massively grown or massively failed, or pumped lots of money and then eventually failed. Like, that exists. But doing it sustainably is something that we have been very good at doing. So we went to Germany and we went to Romania, because what we learned was that Czechia and Hungary were growing very well. So as you keep growing into Western Europe, in Germany and Austria, so specifically Munich, Frankfurt, and then Berlin, showing that we could continuously replicate this in our Eastern market was quite important. But how we expanded is super interesting, because when you look at the proposition, if you look at Rohlik Group, we actually have different banners in all the markets. So we're Rohlik in Czechia, we're Kifli in Hungary, we're Gurkel in Austria, we're Knuspar in Germany, and then we're Sesamo in Romania. Now, many retailers face this problem. They kind of go, well, I'll start in one country and I want to expand. Do I want to be Tesco in 5 countries, right? But we really face this conversation about, like, do we want to be like a faceless grocer that just expands, or do we want to localize? And our proposition is really what differentiates that, plus the local branding. So when we expand to markets, our proposition is very unique. We offer a same-day full basket offering, but it's about the proposition and the assortment that we provide. So we have broadly the same assortment as your local retailers, so your A brands, and our fresh offering is often provided by local suppliers. So when we go into a market, we go find and work with farmers, we work with butchers, we work with the high street stores that people love, super local in those industries and those cities. And then we bring a very high-tiered offering. So we bring, that the top shelf offering, where we look at, very unique and a differentiated assortment that's on the higher end, and we bring it to all our markets. But a key part of this is actually localizing specifically to the market.
Right.
So when I go to, look, I'm Irish and I also live in London. So I love cakes, as you can probably tell. And basically what we there's a local baker in where I live in London, and I love going there on a Saturday morning, right? I love going and getting some really nice cakes with icing. But I do that in London because I know I can't get it. I can't get it in my full basket shop with my provider. And it's not necessarily a ritual where I like going up in the morning. Some people like that, but other people want to have the convenience.
Right.
So what we do is those places where people queue out the door to get that cake or get their nice chicken breasts or get their really fresh fruit and veg. We get those suppliers on our site and we make sure it's localized.
And you do that also on the city level?
Yes.
Like
it
will be different in Berlin and Munich?
Yes. So on average, there is an element of SKUs that are similar because remember we match to the supermarket that you can get. But the localization is localized to city, which is really, really important. And that coupled with the local branding is quite important because it is quite hard. You go to a market and you're basically coming up with a new brand, a new supply chain. You're trying to find a bunch of farmers. You're trying to find a bunch of bakery shops and butchers. It's actually quite hard. But that's actually quite important and valued by the customer. But our offering, by the way, it's not just that. We also offer pharmacy in most of our markets. So, the whole point is that you should be able to get everything in one place. Mm-hmm. I do want to get my groceries. I do want to get the cake. I do really want a nice piece of strip loin. And I also need some, Nurofen while I'm at it. It's that entire end-to-end offering, which stops the customer, which is a normal habit of going and stepping into 4 or 5 places on a Saturday morning. Because, who wants to do that?
For sure. And
for us as a business, just to finish the story, so we've grown. So COVID was fantastic in that for the industry. Sorry, let me rephrase that. For the industry, what it proved is that people want to shop online.
Yeah.
It proved that the channel shift exists and will continue.
It definitely saved a lot of money on marketing
for
the whole industry.
For sure, right? But what we've done since then is we've continually grown. We grow on average 30-40% year over year, which is phenomenal post-COVID, right? Which is actually quite important. And we did a strategic acquisition in Germany. So we acquired a brand called Bringmeister, where they were a 100 million revenue business in Germany, in Berlin and Munich. And we automated their warehouse. And then this year we've actually completed a fundraise for 160 million euro.
Congrats.
Thank you. That's good.
That's an impressive journey, yeah, and impressive funding on such a low market. And this is actually one of the things that I want to dive in a bit deeper into. But to finalize this kind of topic, so do I understand right that you perfected the model being in check on the home market, and then you spread it around the world? Because if I remember right, even before scaling to more cities or at least more markets, Rohlik already acquired the pharmacy online retailer, if I'm correct. Or you just brought this category in without acquiring anyone?
No, we have a partnership for pharmacy.
Okay.
So we have a partnership for pharmacy.
So you basically perfected and tested it in
Absolutely.
check, and then you started spreading it
I think the key
across.
part, yes, and I think the key learning through that expansion was, which I'm sure we'll come to, is Czechia and Hungary, and Hungary is now profitable, and it will continue to be significantly profitable. Just for context, Czechia alone contributes nearly 50 million to our business in cash. Like it's an absolute fantastic business, right?
Even though it's a pretty small market, like 10 million people, and
sure, right? But we'll come to it, right? But on Czechia and Hungary, what happens is when we went to Germany and Austria. What we learned, which has turned the strategy slightly, is that manual warehouses are not part of the future of a sustainable business if you go to a Western market, where the labour rate is 3 times that of a Central Eastern European market. And so in 2022, when we did our fundraise, because in this time, we raised over $500 million, we decided to automate our warehouses. So we have automation in Munich, in Berlin, we just gone live in Vienna, actually in October 24. We have 2 of our 3 Prague sites automated as well. And this is really, really important, right? Because automation reduces labor costs by over 50%, right? So, because I've automated it, right, which is crazy. And therefore I can build a sustainable business in a Western market. So, there are businesses that invest in automation, but same-day automation, we've proven that works in Germany and Austria. And just to clarify, we're the only business that have proven that we can deliver a grocery order profitably in Germany. So what I mean by that is in Munich, we hit CM2 profitability in our Munich site. So specifically, that's all direct costs relating to delivering a grocery order profitably before branding and overheads. And we're on track to be EBITDA positive in Munich in the coming months. And no business has done that for a same-day model with like 3-hour delivery. That's insane, and that's absolutely enabled by technology and automation. And from where I'm standing, you talk about Rohlik being this fantastic grocer. I think we're a technology business in a grocer's clothing.
Yeah. If we go into this automation thing, because it is a very fascinating topic, and I haven't been to your warehouse yet, but I really want to.
As I saw a lot of
there.
You can come, right? You're like, here I am live from.
Yeah, we should do that.
Totes.
But this, I understand that the automation is key, and maybe we can dive deeper into this because it's a lot of cost, right? And basically, you're investing into the future, into the capex, but what does it bring? You said it drops the cost of labor by 50%, right? So is it the volume and automation and choice that helps you be profitable on the order level and sets you up for success for the future? Or what is it? And how? Let's look at automation more. Like maybe there are other angles that are not visible to the public.
Yeah, sure. And I'll take a step back. Let's finance hat. Let's talk through the P&L. Right?
Sure.
So I think that's probably the best way to do it.
That's the best part.
Right? So let me just tell you how we run our business. So we, when they say retail is detail, that has a different definition and interpretation when you're a pure play online grocer, because you have data everywhere and detail everywhere, unlike a bricks and mortar or an omni-channel approach.
Okay.
So in the P&L, right, if you just visualize a P&L, or for those, so bear with me, right, I have my basket size and then I have margin, right, so, and the name of the game in this business, which is, grocery is a very margin-driven business, right, the name of the game is to try and maximize as much margin as possible while keeping the customer first. It's super important.
Yeah.
And, our ethos as a business is amazing the customer is actually one of our most strongest ingredients, right? So we don't try and, pass on extra prices to the customer, we price match, we do a lot of things like that, right? Which is really important. So margin is important, you get as much margin as possible, and then to be a sustainable, profitable grocer, it's keeping as much of that margin to the bottom line. And between margin, CM1, and CM2, it's basically operations, right? So what does operations mean? Operations means I need to have a warehouse, I probably need to have some conveyors. If I'm a manual warehouse, I'll have conveyors. I'll have a ton of people, right? I'll probably have trolleys and things like that, right? If I'm in a market where my labor rate can be 25, 35 euro an hour, right? And it depends by city, it depends by the country, it depends by the regulation. Then, and I'm also depending on human efficiency. How do I consistently drive human efficiency to make sure that what I've done really hard to get higher basket, more frequency, I've done great negotiations with my suppliers to get the best margin for my business, balancing the customer, and how do I keep that when my entire intention is based on how quick you pick the groceries on a Sunday or on a Monday after you've gone out on the lash on a Sunday night,
Sure, or how much spoilage you have, right?
Yeah, well, absolutely, right. So but there's a mix of these things, right? So I'm depending on humans, number one, right? I can have light automation. Most businesses have a bit of light automation. They have a couple of conveyors. They have they have forklifts. They have stuff like that, right? That's all a bit of capex. It's not much, right? But effectively, you're right. There is an investment in automation, but on average, looking at that return on investment starts paying back between 18 months to 2 years, depending on what size and scale you are. Right. So if I have a really, really large warehouse, super far away from the outskirts of a city, then I need to have a lot of orders to try and cover my fixed costs. But if I have smaller sites, not necessarily micro fulfillment centers, but slightly smaller sites and the really large ones closer to the city, that helps. So what drives my costs in here are how quick I can efficiently get things through, fulfilled and out of the warehouse using people and automation, and we'll come to that. And then how efficiently when it leaves the warehouse and someone gets into a car, how quick I can and efficiently I can route to make sure I'm delivering enough orders in that route to that person and optimizing that. That is effectively the game. Now, when we look at automation, we have a Cubic ASRS, so we partner with AutoStore, and all our technology is AutoStore technology in our automated warehouses. And when you have automation like that, on average in the life cycle with volume, labor can be reduced compared to, say, a check warehouse by about at least 50%. So when I'm comparing 3 times labor rate, which I need a bunch of labor, and then I'm reducing by 50%, then I'm basically getting similar, if not better, unit economics to that in Czechia.
Yeah.
Right? Of that logic alone. And then the challenge about same-day grocery is, I'm going to be in Prague later today, they don't know I'm going to order at 7 p.m., right? I'll order it by 4 p.m. and I'll get it at 7. So routing works where, but only until the customer places the order, right? And that's where next day is super easy to crack. I'm always surprised that next day grocers aren't profitable, right? It makes no sense to me, right? But like, if I know today when my orders are going tomorrow, I can basically route it perfectly. Like,
right.
why wouldn't I, right? But when I don't know in 3 hours, then it's about the most maximum way to do that. And it's little things. It's how many bags I can put in the van, how many bags I need to fill the order. Like, sometimes you might order online and you'll get a bag and there's like, like a bottle of Pepsi in there, and you're like, why is this bag here? That bag takes space in a van, right? And it's like, if I reduce that one bag and I reduce the one bag by the 6 orders, I can get another order in the van. It's that level of micro detail to maximize the extra order, and then ultimately do that for every van, and then you drop one route. You drop one route, you drop a car, you drop the individual, you save the money, you take that, multiplied by the shifts, multiplied by the orders. That's profitability. That's how you do it. It's that level of micro detail of process path mapping in a warehouse to understand. And I know it sounds like, I'm like super nerdy about logistics and warehouses. Like I love it, right? As you probably
But I love it also, and I'm very impressed. Like, how do you keep this level of discipline on such a big organization? Because that's art.
It's finance. Aha.
Okay.
No, it legitimately it's also art as well. But it's input and outputs, right? So we actually have a meeting, and I talk about it a lot. What I call our most important meeting of the week as an exec board at Rohlik, and that's on a Tuesday at 3:30 to 4:30, where we look at last week's results, this week's forecast, next week's forecast, and we look at the input drivers. So we look at basket, we look at items in the basket, because items in the basket equals throughput, equals volume going into the warehouse. It's not just orders. Mm-hmm. It's like, it can be orders, but if everyone's ordering one item less, then I have less SKUs going through it, right. And that impacts more, right? So this has a huge impact as well. So we look at basket, margin, SKUs, productivity. We look at all the key input drivers that drives our cost per order unit economics performance, right? We then look at what that does to the P&L, and then what that does. So we're basically reforecasting every week, right? And then going, right, well, we're out turning better. Let's get better. We're out turning worse. How do we make it better? And you have enough time to react, right? But that level of micro detail, and when I talk about micro detail, I'm saying like, why are we down 5K? Oh, something broke here. So a great example you mentioned about wastage is, so shrink is a huge focus, right? So most bricks and mortar retailers have shrink, above 1% to 2% of revenue, because you can only do so much with your bricks and mortar stores. And
it's huge, by the way, 1-2% of revenue. It's immense.
It's crazy, right? And it's super interesting because, one of our ingredients is challenging the status quo, and we have people saying, well, hang on a second, it will naturally grow as 1-2% as a retailer, but actually, if we just step back and go, why? Like, I don't want to waste food. I know when people are ordering. I actually have 10 years of data of how people order. How do people order at Christmas? I understand. What happens on a sunny bank holiday weekend? I understand. I have all this data. And I can I know people, if they stay at home, they're doing barbecues. If they go away, they're ordering stuff to go away. I mean, I have so much data that tells me this stuff. That's what I'm saying. retail is detail. And so, when we look at the business at this level of precision, what ends up happening is that we actually ended up delivering, this is crazy, 0.4% waste shrink levels as a percentage of revenue, right, in our last financial year. Now,
impressive.
Just to clarify, that wasn't me going, let's be sustainable. That's me going, okay, we baked 20 more loaves of bread and they were shrinked. Why? Because the algorithm was wrong on this one site. Okay, cool. So let's try and fix that for next week. And it's a bug in the system. And then next week what happens is there's less loaves that have been shrinked. Great. And then the week after we'll go, oh, but we actually got like a bunch of, I don't know, rotten apples, right? And root causing every single week. And that's looking at 20 loaves of bread is not even 5K.
Yeah.
But that's how we catch it weekly, right? And so we as an entire executive board sit down every week and look at these key metrics, root cause, resolve for the next week. So you just get precision upon precision at a micro level detail. And you get a lot of, come on, Vineta, it's like 3K. And I'm like, but that is the level that you want to get to for unit economic profitability. And to clarify, 0.4% shrink levels is globally leading. We are like a retailer in Europe. We started in little old Czechia, right? Most bricks and mortar are super high. The only number publicly stated is 0.8% a year. We have 0.4%, and that's not us going, by the way. If I theoretically did this with my technology, I would get to 0.4%. This is me saying I have proven through my financial results that I can do 0.4%. And I continue, and I'm trying to get it better. Because why shouldn't I? So we've kind of become accidentally sustainable, but it's not because we were trying to be sustainable. And that's quite important as our business because our mission is eat well, live well. And that has quality of food, sustainable thinking, a sustainable business, the best choice, the best convenience, all of that's factored in there.
Fantastic. And just to close the topic of automation, we discussed that it helps to, again, reduce labor and improve the efficiency and other factors. But how do you see looking forward it affects your future scalability? Does it have any limit? Do you just increase the size of the warehouse then and scale and just put more of those machines that you have and you just can serve more and more orders, or instead of having 10,000 SKUs, you will have 100,000 SKUs? Or how does it work for the future? Is it also unlocking your scalability potential, and in which way?
I think it unlocks scalability in that I know I can get profitable quicker with automation. So
Okay.
that's the first thing, right? Because again, I want to be a sustainable grocer. And that's very important in a post-COVID world where, making sure that I'm growing double-digit at revenue that shows continuous growth while also showing that I'm not burning a bunch of money doing it, right? Which is super important for the industry right now and will be for a number of years. Czechia is a great example about what a mature city looks like. So Czechia has 3 warehouses. 2 are automated, 1 will be automating soon. And that's ideal. They're located kind of satellite sites perfectly around the city, which means I can cover into the city well, and I can cover regional areas as well, really well, without cross-docking or trunking delivery. And so replicating that model in more mature sites. So for example, Munich is doing great in Germany, and we'll probably open a Munich too, as we start getting more
The
scale.
second warehouse.
Because as we get to a scale, that's what naturally will happen in this industry, right? In Berlin, I have a great warehouse because because with Bringmeister, I have all their customers, and that's basically bringing a lot of volume in. I have a Berlin warehouse already, so I'm kind of the natural evolution of our industry and of our business will be that as sites get more mature, I will open out another warehouse, on average, to then continually grow and hit that double digit while also serving more customers in that area. It's just the natural evolution. But as a strategy of our business, we would not open another warehouse unless it's automated. Automation is absolutely part of our future, because whether I'm opening a second warehouse in Hungary, in Czechia, in Germany, in Romania, wherever the next one is, and when the next one is, will very much depend on, will only go live with an automated warehouse.
Okay.
And to clarify, we have different levels of automation. So we have, as I said, a cubic ASRS. We also have expeditions. We currently use Brightpick, and we have robotic arms. So, we're looking and we're spending a lot more time to do robotic arms to get that efficiency and order lines per man hour or units per order metric higher and higher, because the more efficiency I can get through, the more orders I can get in, the more I can deliver more. It means the more I can offer 90 minutes or an hour, not 3 hours, which is depending on how quick I can fulfill and how quick I can deliver. So that's absolutely the journey. The other thing we have been looking at is how we automate more of our last mile. So, like I said, today, I don't know what orders I'll have at 7 p.m. apart from everybody who's booked it at 7 p.m. So how do I optimize that area? We're exploring some automations around the last mile itself. How do we, and to clarify on the last mile, one huge part of our pillar, which is happening going forward, is sustainability is actually very important to us. And most of our fleet is an e-fleet. Mm-hmm. So looking at how we continuously scale that and then optimize that area, looking at what autonomous driving looks like, looking at that level, because do I really need a driver driving from the warehouse to the person, or can I have an autonomous driver, a car driving, and then someone goes on? I don't know. But this is what we're thinking about continuously. And this is what I said, we're a technology business in grocery clothing. Super cool.
Super cool. Very interesting. And thank you for providing such a broad answer. I think that you guys are a very important benchmark for Europe how the automation can be driven, and it's great that there are already many startups who are driving this kind of B2B automation, helping the companies to automate. There are still not that many companies who implement it, right? Because again, it's a lot of money. A lot of people who think that it's never going to work and so on, but the examples like Rohlik and the results that you're getting with this automation is definitely something that is moving the needle and growing the market.
I want to say one more thing, because you mentioned a question earlier and I just want to go back to it. You were talking about Czechia being super small. And,
yeah.
So just to give you some context, right? When we started in 2014, the online grocery penetration was like under 5% in Czechia. Right?
Yeah.
And by 2019, we had online grocery penetration in Czechia alone of like 32%. That's ahead of the UK, which is about 30%.
And UK is the leader.
And it's ahead of Europe average, which was 15% in 2019. So, when we talk about the growth, what we as a business are doing is we are not only just growing and, helping people go online. It's not just that. We are absolutely changing the way how people shop, the way the world shops, the way the industry looks at grocery overall, because we've proven it in little old Czechia, right? We've literally proven that the online penetration could have grown. I wouldn't say directly as a result of Rohlik, but absolutely those 2 points in online grocery penetration, where Rohlik is a leader in that specific market, is proof that we are disrupting, the industry and markets that we go into.
Yeah.
Those are mind-boggling numbers.
Yeah. They are, because I actually do believe that Rohlik is playing a key role in driving this penetration, because this number is huge. 32%.
32%.
That's a lot,
right? I know, right?
And honestly, why I'm talking about Czech in a way that it's a small market. I studied there, I lived there, and I know how kind of old school the community is. Not in a bad way, but this is just the way the country is. And to get to these results in Czech Republic, where you have the Vietnamese grocery store on every corner, right? And people are so used to going outside and just getting something. It's very impressive. Speaking about the overall penetration numbers, right? Czech is the leader within Europe, but also there are bigger markets in terms of grocery, right? Germany, it's bigger population, and higher income and so on, right? Where do you see the future of grocery? Is it just going to go deeper into the penetration and it's going to grow naturally, or is there some trend like automation that can supersede and make it more accessible for the customers and more people are going to start using it? Where do you see this next step, next lockdown, let's say, that can help boost it overall within Europe? Because it is a very important service for people that saves a lot of time, that can save money, that can do a lot of good things for the customers, right? How do you think Rohlik and the competitors and colleagues of Rohlik can drive this development forward?
It's a great question. It's a very broad question as well, right?
Yeah.
So I think a step back to wider, right? So like I said, I worked for Ocado for 10 years. Like, Ocado started in 2001, right? Like, I mean, who's doing online grocery in 2001? And they built all their technology themselves. And in 2014, Rohlik started, and Rohlik also did a bunch of, own developments themselves, right? And the cool thing about living today, and especially in a post-COVID world, is during COVID, it's like everyone had to go online, and therefore people started trying to come up with technical problems and ways to solve through technology, engineering, and automation, super easy ways to pivot online, whether it was creating a website, buying a WMS, and so if I'm a startup grocer, if I'm the local Vietnamese shop, right? If I want to suddenly have an omnichannel presence where I'm online, it's actually really easy to do that. I can either build my own site and get crowdsource it, or I partner with a platform provider like Volt or Uber Eats or Deliveroo, whatever it is, right? So being online and omnipresent is super easy now. And the cool thing is that it's really easy for this industry to just go, let me try online grocery. It's super easy, right? And I think that's a huge shift, because prior to COVID, the only options for retailers was to invest, multi-million, large warehouses, only, one or two providers of automation with really expensive price tags, long lead times to actually get access to that.
But they still do that.
They still, right? But no, you're right? But so I think the industry has shifted, because firstly, we're living in a world where capital actually costs money now. It's not free anymore in comparison to a couple of years ago, number one, which is squeezing people. And businesses are looking at this going, do I really want to invest 50, 60, 70 million, or do I work with do I work with a Brightpick? Do I work with an AutoStore? Do I do logistics as a service? Do I pay per pick? Do I have, and there's multiple financial models to do it, which means that it is the barriers to entry to go online is significantly lower, right? And that's great, right? Because it basically means that the industry will grow, right?
For sure.
That's the first thing. Because that's what I said, people just don't have, one, the money, and two, the time and patience to wait for warehouses to open over 2 years. So that's that. Now, when it comes to the industry, I think it's interesting. It's like there are multiple generations that have buying power now, and it's crazy, right? Like there's my grandparents, so then there's my parents, then there's me. I'm a millennial. There's Gen Z. You're probably in between the two, so there's Gen Z, and there's Gen Alpha, right? Gen Alpha was born 2010 to 2024, right? Which basically means that these people have Revolut cards
already.
They're buying on TikTok Shop, right? And when you and I grew up, we probably went to the store with our parents or parents. My mother used to take me on Fridays at 3 o'clock after school, and we'd go to the store. She'd have her list, we'd have a trolley, and I'd eat free samples in the store, which was great. And you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, that's my favorite part.
And that's what a lot of us have, right?
Yeah.
But there are people who are younger than us, than you and I, because you and I are going online grocery, obviously. But there are probably people in our generation who are probably like, right? But
yeah, they cannot. What if they don't print the right stuff? And
Yeah.
like, what if it's spoiled?
Exactly.
And like, I don't know what I'm going to get. So.
But like we didn't grow up with somebody knocking on the door going, here's your parcel, here's your Amazon parcel, here's your whatever parcel, right? And literally everybody that's relatively younger than us, right, like say 28 or younger, right, on average, have lived with that, have lived either through their teens, early teens, or lived through that. And then again, the Gen Alpha, like they're not going to go to the mall and hang out and do stuff. They're literally going to order stuff and then return it, right? So there is a seismic generational channel shift that's happened.
And it's happening right now.
And it was expedited through COVID
Yeah.
even more. So when there's like skeptics in the press that go, well, online grocery, back to the high street, I get really upset with those statements. Because I'm like, how old are you? Like, I'm like, and they're like, oh, it won't happen in my lifetime. I'm like, yeah, not in your lifetime because you're old. Like, I'm a bit like, this is clearly a thing that's happening.
Yeah.
Because what's happened, especially through COVID, and even before, ignoring the generation channel shift, is that people fundamentally put a price in their time.
Yeah.
Right? They go, I don't really want to take, I don't know, my kid, I don't have kids, but I don't want to take my kid to the grocery store on a Saturday morning and spend 2 hours when I've like worked loads over the week, right? They put a price, and that price is convenience. And if you can pay for that convenience for someone to come to your door, and you broadly have a fantastic assortment range that is price match that you can get like in 3 hours or 1 hour depending where you are, like why not? And I think the point is that people are thinking about that, and bricks and mortar retailers are trying to adapt to that, like in the markets that we operate in. They're offering click and collect. Some of them are reverting back and not offering click and collect, which is a bit bizarre in my mind, right? I'm kind of like, what are you doing, right? Like it's just like click and collect is the super low effort way to get more throughput
100%.
through your store. Like why would you stop, right? So like, I have a fundamental belief that this is happening, it's staying, and the customers very quickly in the next couple of years will absolutely be challenging to have this convenience. If I can get my Amazon, if I can get my jeans or whatever it is, like today or tomorrow, why can't I get the freshest groceries? And like I have this fundamental personal belief, right, that getting a grocery delivery in 1 hour, it should be a human right. That sounds kind of really, like I'm on a soapbox now, right? Like I just like, it, it's like 15 years ago, water was important and electricity was important.
Yeah.
But now it's like internet is equally as important.
100%.
Right? That is absolutely a utility that every single household and every single individual should have. Freshest assortment and food delivered to you in 1 hour should be, and I personally believe, is a human right that everyone should get. Like I just fundamentally believe that. And I think the customers, and we put the customers first all the time, they are getting louder on what they want, which is why we're growing like 40% year on year.
Okay.
Which is why the generations are going, I'm not walking to this Vietnamese corner stop. Like I said, I live in London. Like I'm there on a Saturday morning. I am not walking to a store to grab the bread that I forgot. I'm basically gonna, order on Deliveroo or something because my fat ass is not walking down there. I put a price on my time to getting into my car. Right? And many people my age, your age, and younger think the same way.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
That noise is going to get louder versus, the skeptics, where some of our friends are going, I like picking my grocery, I like picking my banana,
yeah.
And I like picking it, or I like picking my avocado, and I'm like, how many people groped that avocado before you touched it, a metric should be number of gropes per, SKU, like legitimately, right? And they don't understand online grocery. You get the freshest produce. Milk that is delivered to our warehouses in the morning is in your fridge in the evening or within 3 hours.
Yes.
It's that fresh, right? Versus a traditional or an omni-channel, it goes to a central distribution warehouse and then it goes to another warehouse and then it goes to a hub and spoke model.
Yeah.
So it's gone in and out of different temperature zones. It's probably taken about 2 days to get to you and you've lost 2 days of life. But, with my farm to fork offering, and with my fantastic assortment and my regular deliveries, on a daily basis, you get the freshest milk. I'm kind of like, why aren't people buying more on online grocery? So I just really believe that this is something that people can ignore, but it's going to happen.
And it's going to be driven by people or by whom? Where is this trend coming from? People are just going to demand because, again, you get next day delivery on Amazon or you get any e-commerce thing right now pretty quickly, right? And you can get food in 30 minutes. So Is it just like a natural thing that people are just going to drive and want, and with this generation shift, it's going to supersede and like grow further?
Absolutely, people.
Okay.
Because the thing is, if people want something, then customers have to demand. Like, so if I'm in a market where 3 of the 4 retailers offer next day and 1 retailer offers same day, why would I wait till tomorrow if I can get it today, right?
Well, I've heard a lot of like different kind of arguments why not. But I think that's big. I'm not gonna get it fresh, or like I'm not gonna get it on time. It's probably going to be late. My order is going to be.
But that's people in their
canceled.
30s. That's people like me and you who went to the store and got. People will have bad experiences. It happens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's natural, right? But when you think about the channel shift, where people are just naturally going, I'm not gonna go to the store. I'm gonna order it to my house.
Right.
Right. That growing demand means that they'll probably shop in a different store and go, actually, I still want to get it. They're not going to be skeptical about it, because don't forget, when they grew up, their parents probably ordered groceries online. So it's kind of like, if you've seen your parents get groceries online, like 30% of the time, or 60% of the time, you understand, and then it just has a different person. Like, you'll have customers who shop with you twice a month instead of 4 times a month.
Yeah.
But like, people on average will understand that the impact of it. So I think the drive will come from people. That's how most industries change. It's customers want something, which is why current bricks and mortar retailers are offering click and collect. They're partnering with providers to provide that to them, which is a low cost effort or a low cost way to invest in the omni-channel, without spending multi millions.
Yeah, but they're so used to selling the shelves that it's going to be very difficult, I think, to get off this needle.
But do you think there's going to be large hypermarkets like?
I'm sure there will.
In 20 years.
No, I'm pretty evangelist about online, just like you, same way. But we also know all these people, right, who are like, oh, nobody is going to get the candy. Like, why would you go online to just buy a candy? That's not an occasion, and whatever.
I like if we're like still violently agreeing with each other. Like,
yeah.
But it's like I said, it's a if I was born in 2010 and now I'm 14, I've literally probably never seen groceries being delivered to my house in X amount, depending where you live, in X amount of households, right? So like I said, like you and I visualize going to a store. There are people who have never visualized that. Like when it's because that's ingrained in us.
When I was growing up in Prague, and when I went to the university there, I saw the first Rohlik cars, and I was like, who is going to pay for that? Like, that was back in 2014, that when Rohlik just started and they were the first cars. Like, who's going to pay for grocery? I have a Tesco next door, and I have this shop nearby, and so on. Like, who's going to pay for that? And that was 10 years ago, and my mind shifted, and I'm pretty sure that many people's mind is going to shift. It's just a question of time, and I agree that it can and it will probably come from the customers, right? Because we want convenience, right? And in the world of choices, we want to choose the best, especially as with automation, it's getting more and more accessible, right?
And that's...
Sorry guys, just before you jump in, we probably need to wrap in about a minute or two, just so we can close everything else and get it wrapped up by 10:30.
Right. Time flies.
What was I going to say? So will we pick up where we stopped, or where?
Pick up where you stopped, that's absolutely fine.
Cool. So I was going to say, 1 second. And one of the important things as well, it's not only people, it's also about aggregators. So, when we look at aggregators, we look at Bolt, Deliveroo, Uber Eats, you're seeing a really interesting trend or industry movement in the UK where retailers are partnering with partners like Deliveroo.
Right.
So people can start seeing groceries online. So what happens is people then start seeing that, going, oh, this is super convenient. And then what's happening is it's a really good way for a grocer to assess whether they want to go online or not, or is that sufficient, right?
Yeah.
And helps their brand. Now, where do I see this, right? I think, you talk about people, it's also businesses, right? Because let these businesses, Volt and other platform aggregators, go online and get these retailers online, because then the hardest part about growing an online business is converting a customer online.
Yeah.
Once someone has convinced to go online, they naturally gravitate to the best provider.
Yeah.
And so in the markets we're in Rohlik, we are the best provider. We have the freshest assortment. You get it within an hour or 3 hours, depending on where you are to the warehouse. You get the freshest assortment. You get pharmacy. You get everything that you want, right? And you get it sustainably. You get it an eco fleet, and it's groceries that don't really cost the earth. Like, I mean, it's an amazing model.
Yeah.
And so I very much welcome aggregators, because they're just basically covering my CAC to convince a customer to go online. And then the customers naturally gravitate to us.
Yeah.
So, and the more these people grow the industry, the more people will demand better service.
Yeah.
And then they will gravitate to Rohlik Group, the best in the industry, in my opinion.
I think you guys are leading it, and I think that even though we're out of time, we need to continue this conversation. You say you're going to Prague today?
Oh, yeah, part 2. We can do it
Part
at the warehouse.
two.
We can do it at the warehouse.
Friday.
Let's do it.
I'll be in Prague Friday. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching it. There will be part 2. I hope it doesn't take a year for us to agree on that, but I hope we can do it Friday. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. It was great. It was fantastic, and I'm super excited about the things that you guys are doing.
Thanks. And look, thanks for having me. I think it's what you're doing on your platform is great, just raising the awareness of the great things happening in e-commerce.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the second part.